Welcome to Title of Game. This is a game that some classmates and I created over the semester here at Digipen. If we take a look at the credits, which are horrendous, they were done by me, so don't worry about it. You'll see that I was the team lead and lead programmer. James Cameron King was our assistant programmer and assistant game designer. And Caitlin Ard was our lead designer. We have special thanks, particularly Chris Peters. He actually wrote the engine, well, with the team. He wrote the engine that we're working on, the Zero engine. It's a proprietary Digipen engine, but we'll see what happens with that as time goes on. Our course instructor was Douglas Schilling for the Game 100 class. Digipen president is Claude Camille. And yeah, okay. So we'll just get started. So Title of Game is a 2D platformer. It's pretty simplistic. It's not too crazy. Its main game mechanic is being able to create and destroy objects in the world. This first level is a tutorial which teaches you about a few of the objects that you'll be creating in I cannot speak tonight, excuse me. Some of the objects that you'll be creating, as well as the main obstacle, which is fire. These were pretty cool. These are squares that sort of move back in the Z-plane, and basically what you can do with them is you can place them down and they'll move back and forth. Obviously when they're in the back, you can't stand on them, but what's neat about them is that they can trigger buttons in the background, as you'll see, and I think that's level 3. We just wanted to show you sort of what the circles could do. They're pretty cool objects, but they're kind of buggy, unfortunately, with the budget system that we put in, which you'll see in this next level here. This is the first level that you can actually create objects in, just the rectangles at this point. So this little text box mentions it, but what's really cool is when you actually create objects, you can it pauses the game when you open the menu, so you can sort of protect yourself from instant death, although it didn't really work there. But here's a better example. So you're falling, you're like, oh no, fire. Let me just create an object underneath me that will save me. You also notice that that little creation thing is red. Now what that means is that the path is impeded. So if I create this here, it's going to fall down and be destroyed. And same thing's going to happen in that one. The thing is, you can't actually create them if the object itself is impeded, although that's not perfect. I know that sometimes it works when you just put it into the tile map like this. But for the most part, it works out pretty well. Excuse me, I'm a little sick. But let's see here, if I go back and destroy all the objects. There we go. Yeah, it was stuck in the tile map, that's what I thought. Usually they destroy themselves though, that's kind of interesting. Anyway, sorry about that. Just love discovering bugs. So here's basically what happens with the budget system. As you create objects, you'll notice your budget goes up, or rather, sort of goes down. It's a little confusing. We didn't explain it perfectly, but you'll move up to 5 objects on this particular level. And then when you try to create the next object, it's going to destroy your last one, or rather the first one made. So it works a little like a queue, but theoretically this should work. You can... Oop, missed. Theoretically, I should be able to destroy that one, and when I create this, it should destroy the one all the way on the right. Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. You can also destroy all, just to reset your budget back to 0. for the most part, that system works. It's just later on with the circles, because they're comprised of multiple objects, they're kind of buggy. And when I say kind of buggy, they're extremely buggy. At least with the budget system, they work pretty well. Besides that, when we didn't have the budget system in, the game was very stable. But unfortunately, the budget system kind of broke it a little bit. But we'll just finish off this level. So here we introduce triangles, squares, and enemies. Excuse me. Unfortunately, the triangle or the enemies aren't very threatening. Can only really be killed by triangles. Although you can knock them off the edge of the... Well, it's a little complicated. I won't get too far into it. But they're a little buggy. Let's just say that. It was actually a bug that was introduced within the last hour of development. And I didn't have time to fix it. But as far as I can tell, it's a problem with the engine. Or at least the editor. And not a problem that our team introduced. So, can't win them all, but can at least say that we didn't introduce the bug. It was the editor. At least not that bug. It's totally my fault the queue system is not perfect. Anyway, so that was that level. Here's the last one, in which we introduce these circles. We'll use them at the end of the level. There's no real point to using them here, and also it's really difficult. I don't think I've ever seen someone successfully use them right here. Besides just making one just to see that they can. So we'll just move along here. Just kill the enemies, hit the triggers, and head on out. So we'll just get the bridge up. Okay, and now we can introduce the circles and get out of here. Okay, cool. So that's gonna be the end of the game there. I like that little windscreen at the end. Okay, shows the credits. But for, I know there's at least one person I'm gonna send this video to, which I mentioned some of the tech behind this game. So if you don't care about the tech, yeah, you probably just don't want to watch the rest of the video, because I'm gonna talk about like math and computer science stuff, and you're not gonna care. I'm not sure if he's even gonna care, but if you're interested, keep watching. If you're not, thank you for watching. I guess I'll see you soon. Okay, so to the like one person who's interested in the tech behind this, one of the neat things that I worked on was the creation system. So that required a fair bit of thinking, but when we thought up this menu, I knew the first thing that I was going to have to work on was a tree data structure to hold all this information. What I ended up doing was I wrote a data structure in Python. It's just a generalized tree. It holds three main objects at instantiation, and that's it contains an object, just any object. Due to the way Python works, it can hold literally anything. Python is a typeless language, so I can honestly send anything to that object and it'll take it. Now the data structure is customized for dealing with these buttons, which I placed in another class called a cog holder class. Everything in this engine, every sprite that you make, every object that you like create through the engine itself or the editor, has a reference called a cog that you can reference in code. And so I created this custom cog holder class because these buttons are actually two different objects. And when I like turn the menu off, I want an easy way to make the whole tree disappear, because right now the whole tree is up, or rather this part of the tree is up, but the whole tree is sort of like out there in the ether somewhere. It's actually at the origin. All of it, when I disappear it, all of the tree is right now at the origin, unreactive, so I can't click on it. It's invisible. So anyway, so basically what the tree does is it has three main objects, as I was talking about. It has just the payload, which could be any object, but in this particular case I'm using cog holders, which is a custom class that I wrote. Excuse me. Also, the data structure itself, I wrote that as well. Python doesn't have any built-in treated data structures. So my implementation is a little inefficient because it also includes a parent object, which is a reference to whatever tree is parented to this tree. I was a little lazy in that my subtrees are just also trees. They're all it's just trees all the way down. There's no node class, it's just a tree class. So the third object that they contain is a nodes, which is an empty list. And when I instantiate, I can provide the children, I can provide the parent if it has one, and I can provide the cog holder or any other object. But like I said, this tree was written with the cog holders in mind, so it has some methods to deal with them. Anyway, so what's cool about this is that I ended up also writing a little method at the beginning of the HUD level. So that's a little complicated. I should probably explain it. So when creating these menus, to put it simply, the way Zero works is, and probably other engines as well, is I actually have three levels running right now. I have the game level where the player is, and where objects are created and destroyed, and where all the level geometry is. Excuse me for being sick. I also have the menu level where I just have this resume and quit. And I have the HUD level, which is the actual HUD of the game. It has the budget in it. It has this part, this dynamic menu system that I created. So at the beginning of the HUD level, when it's initialized, basically what happens is I read in a text file with the name of the game level's name. So what happens there is it checks to see if there's a text file with the same name as the level. And if it does, it means that level has a specific menu that needs to be used. So in the earlier levels, you would see that, say the second level had the rectangle, and that was it here. So that's because we want to sort of like control what the player can create. We also have a default one for if there isn't a specific level text file. Excuse me. So that's for like this sandbox level and the later level, the last level where you have all the objects. Basically what it does is it reads in line by line and it creates a tree based on those lines. And for example, for this particular tree, it's very basic. I wanted it to be as simple for our designer as possible, to be able to write one of these text files and just have it work instantaneously. So basically all it is it first sort of creates it from in a sort of depth first sort of way. In fact, that's exactly how it creates it. So the first line of the text file would be powers, followed by a single hyphen because it's one deep into the powers tree. So it'd be a single hyphen. So the next line would be a single hyphen and then create. Next line would be two hyphens and square. Square is the end of its tree, or the end of its end of the line there. So the next line would be two hyphens and rectangle. But then rectangle actually has multiple options. So then it would be 3 hyphens and vertical. And then it sort of just goes through that. So I just wrote an algorithm to deal with creating the whole tree based on that. And it took a while, and I ran into some interesting Python bugs. But it all worked out in the end. It's actually really cool. So having this tree data structure really helped me out, because like once I knew that I needed a tree, it was really just looking up documentation on trees, and within, I don't know, once I found the right documentation, found what I was looking for, it only took a few hours to really get the idea going. The full implementation of the first tree took about 8 hours. Adding on the serialized nature with the specific text files for every level, that took about another 8, 9, 10 hours. After that, I had to write the creation system, and the traversal system, but that was in the first 8 hours I wrote that. The traversal system's actually pretty basic. To put it simply, I have a little method that searches for the immediate children, the immediate cogs, and when I click create, it just puts create in Power's position, and it has a little algorithm for placing the direct children down. And when I click create here, it just finds the parent cog and does the same thing that it did when I clicked create. Puts Powers where create was and prints its children over here. So this general tree really helped. I'm glad I learned about it beforehand, so I spotted it pretty quickly. Unfortunately, when I was writing the budget system, I didn't think about queues fast enough, and that's why it's kind of buggy. I only thought about bugs I only thought about queues pretty much the day we had to submit. Someone suggested it to me, and unfortunately it was a little too late to perfect it. Right now it's almost there, but still has some bugs with the circles. Anyway, that's pretty much how this all worked, how this all came together. So thanks for listening to me ramble on about general trees and cog holders and all this technical nonsense. Anyway, talk to you later.